Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome. That, as they say, is that. Marvel Comics. Let's go ahead and get started. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And whoa, that is a huge stack of trade paperbacks. So I am talking about books that have come back to print recently or coming back to print soon. Let's go ahead and get started. I was not exaggerating. This is a huge stack of trade paperbacks for the last 6 months that have come back to print or coming back to print. And we're going to be taking a quick look, not a deep dive into each and every one of these. We have some Mighty Marvel Masterworks, and we have some Epic collections, and some of the thick, complete collections that we thought Marvel was done with, but for some reason they snuck back in there and reprinted. So, before going any further, though, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us copies of these books. If you ever watch any of our giveaways, you will see some of these just packed with a bunch of other Omnis that we give away, mainly during like a celebration. So yes, expect some of this stuff to be in somebody's package when it goes out. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's kick it off with the Mighty Marvel Masterworks. We have a reprint of the Mighty Thor Volume 1 and the Doctor Strange Volume 1. Both of these, though, are the standard edition covers, not the direct market covers that they're reprinting. So those are still limited. I've done overviews of these, and my kids and I have reviewed them. My youngest daughter loved Doctor Strange Volume 1. It's a great way to get kids to read comics. And speaking of Doctor Strange, we have The Oath coming back to print, a book that was near impossible to find just a couple of years ago, but Marvel has reprinted it. This is the Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin story, and to me, it's one of the greatest jumping on points for the character of Doctor Strange. We have the original graphic novel, Captain Marvel, but not just Captain Marvel. Well, spoilers, right? The Death of Captain Marvel by Jim Starlin. Not just the graphic novel, but also the issues that lead into that particular original graphic novel. The graphic novel #1 by Jim Starlin coming back to print. One of the most classic runs on Black Widow is come back to print, and that is Black Widow by Chris Samney and Matthew Wilson and Mark Waid. That's right, Mark Waid's run on Black Widow has come back to print in this complete collection format. It's actually called the Complete Collection, which they don't really do anymore, and I'm sure this will be collected in a modern Epic collection. But if you're wanting to get your hands on it or gifting this to somebody, this is the best way to get it. All right, didn't know exactly how to put these into the video, but we've got Silver Surfer Black by Donny Cates and Trad Moore's amazing trippy artwork. Absolutely love the stuff in here. And it's been available in a Treasury edition and a trade paperback. Miss Marvel, but it is Volume 2 of the Saladin Ahmed run. This is Storm Ranger, which introduces us to a new character, a new adversary for the character of Kamala Khan. And then the Darkhold, like this one went out of print, and it is now back in print. This is not the classic Darkhold, but it is still the story of the Darkhold in modern era Marvel Comics. I also didn't know exactly where to put Alien, but this is Alien Revival, Volume 2. And Bloodlines is Volume 1. So this is by Philip Kennedy Johnson and Salvador La Roca. And this is Marvel's take on the characters of the Xenomorphs, aliens from the movies. All right, now we're looking at what I call the Avengers stack. This has the Planet Hulk World Breaker. It's the return of Greg Pak, writing the character of the World Breaker in this little bit of a retcon series, but I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't read it. It is not part of the Greg Pak Planet Hulk nor World War Hulk omnibus. She-Hulk, this is the Rainbow Rowell run. If you haven't read this, this is a lot of fun. This feels more like a manga than a Western-style comic, and it is still a continuing series. This is the Eisner Award winner Vision, all 12 issues collected in here, and I guess I call this the Avengers pack because it features the characters of the Avengers. This is by Tom King and Gabriel Hernandez Walta and Michael Walsh. Venom, that's not supposed to be in here, but oh well, the Planet of the Symbiotes is collected in this. This was supposed to be in the Spider-Man stack. And Planet of the Symbiotes was that big crossover that happened throughout the 90s during the Clone Saga era, but they actually made a trade paperback of it. Secret Invasion, Mission Earth is coming back to print, or has come back to print. So some of these books you may have already seen by Ryan North and Francesco Mobili. And this is around the time of the Secret Invasion crossover. Now we have not one or two of the Thor by Donny Cates books. You have Volume 5 and Volume 3. This is Revelations, with wonderful artwork by Nick Klein. Torunn Grönberg co-writing some of the stories in here, especially in Volume 3 or 5, along with Al Ewing, and also, of course, Donny Cates. Salvador Larroca supplying some of the artwork. And then you have the Wasp Small Worlds coming back to print. I love the design of this book, along with the Ant-Man design. That's a nice touch. But this is what the artwork looks like here. If you haven't read it, it's a great story that leads later on into Al Ewing's run on the Defenders and a couple of other stories. Now, the Avengers are coming back to print, but this is the Avengers from Jason Aaron's run, with volumes 5, 8, and 9 coming back to print. And you have different artists, like this is the one by Caselli, I think. Stefano Caselli doing this one. And then you have, this is Garon, right? If I'm not mistaken, Del Quion doing that issue right there. Javier Garon doing the rest of the series. And that's what the art looks like, using characters from his Wolverine in the X-Men run. I love that he's doing that. And then the artwork in this particular book right here. Now, we're not done with the Avengers stack, because we also have Vision and the Scarlet Witch, the saga of Wanda and Vision. So they came out with these saga books that are as thick as epic collections. These are nice. And showcasing the saga of exactly what it states. Vision and the Scarlet Witch. And we've got Thor by Jason Aaron, the Complete Collection Volume 4. Interesting that this came back to print, because they're not really doing complete collections, or maybe it was just a quick restock. And I'm sure they're going to collect this era in a modern epic collection. We know there's a Thor modern era epic collection. Now we got some Daredevil love in here. We've got Daredevil No Fears, Chip Zdarsky's first volume of his run, with Marco Cucchetto's beautiful art. This is coming out in an omnibus format, but if you want to read it in trade paperback, Volume 1 and Volume 5 are coming back to print, as well as Daredevil Woman Without Fear. Now, this is going to be collected in the omnibus. However, issue 100 of Elektra is not part of that omnibus. And this is the only way it's being collected in a collected edition, so keep that in mind. That's the one by Ann Nocenti and a few other writers. And then Ann Nocenti was a big inspiration for Chip Zdarsky's run. And of course, the classic Daredevil by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson, coming out in a trade paperback format. Not an epic, not a complete collection, just Daredevil by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. That has been available before in a trade paperback. Let's talk about Star Wars, because we have several Star Wars books. We have War of the Bounty Hunters, the actual Bounty Hunters book by Ethan Sachs, which was amazing. We have Galaxy's Edge by Ethan Sachs over here. I want to say that was a ride or an experience. War of the Bounty Hunters Companion. So even though it's been released as an omnibus, we are getting them back in print in trade paperback. Now, Darth Vader has a few trades coming back to print. You have volumes 2, and you have volume 3 and volume 4 coming back to print. However, 2 and 4 are the ones that go together, because this is the Charles Soule era of Darth Vader. Volume 2 and 4 here, with different artists, like Giuseppe Camuncoli. And then Gillen's run with Salvador Larroca, volume 3 is also back in print. Now, they're not the only Darth characters that are coming back to print, because so is Darth Maul by Cullen Bunn and Luke Ross. That's also coming back to print. And these are stories about the character of Darth Maul before the movie, episode 1. Also, guess this guy's pretty popular, Boba Fett, Blood Ties. This is part of the Legends line It's not an epic collection. It's just collecting stories of Boba Fett. Now, we know some of these have been collected in epic format from the Star Wars Dark Horse era, which that's what it features mainly here is the Dark Horse era books. But this is just a collection of short stories of Boba Fett. Now, let's move over to X-Men because we have a lot from the Krakoa era. Mainly Wolverine and X-Force. You have Wolverine volumes 2 and 6, and then volume 5 of X-Force, and the Trial of Magneto. I feel like the Trial of Magneto is one of those that went out of print quick, and it came back to print. Here's Wolverine 2. This is the Benjamin Percy era. Available in oversized hardcover, available in an anthology series, but also available in these trade paperbacks. So I'm glad that when these went out of print, they decided to quickly reprint them. They were doing the same thing with the anthology series until they discontinued that line. So unfortunately, those are not coming back to print. They did a quick little reprint of those. Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe right here, which is one of those Deadpool books that Marvel just came back to print with to celebrate the movie that is coming out in July, and then probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, saga of X-Men, and that is Days of Future Past. But collecting it with issue 138, and you've got the annual in here, and then of course the fight with the Wendigo up north that leads into Days of Future Past. But Days of Future Past really is issue 141 and 142 of Uncanny. But they did add everything up until 143, which is John Byrne's final issue. And they've got some classic X-Men covers there and extra goodies in the back if you're a fan of this particular story. The Spider Stack. So we're kicking it off with Silk number 1. This is the era of Silk. Not the classic stuff, which is in a thick trade paperback. But this is by Maureen Gu and Takeshi Miyazawa. I've done overviews of these particular miniseries already. And people have asked, is there enough content for an omnibus? There absolutely is. This is the first Zeb Wells trade paperback with John Romita Jr. on artwork. So this is the era after Nick Spencer's run. And then we have a couple of Spider-Gwen stories. Shadow Clones right here. And Gwenverse right here. Tim Seeley on this particular book. Spider-Man 2099, The Exodus is getting some love. Now, these are stories not by Peter David, but you have Paul Fry, Dave Watcher, Marco Castello, and Zick Carlos, all working with Steve Orlando to tell this Spider-Man 2099 story. This is stuff that's not collected in either omnibus, so that's something to keep in mind. If you're a Spidey 2099 completist and you have to have it all, this is not collected in the omnibus. One of the most classic stories back in print, Kraven's Last Hunt. And looking at the color of, looking at the coloring of this looks like, actually it looks more like the original colors. Because I know they've used different masters for Kraven's Last Hunt. And like the old deluxe edition has the original colors, and sometimes they've used new colors. But for this one, it looks like they've gone back to the classic colors. Miles Morales coming in with volume number 2 of the Solid and Ahmed series. Again, a book that's been available in a trade paperback format. Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man is coming back to print. This is the one by Taboo B. Earl and Juan Ferreira. At one time, one of the scariest Spider-Man stories. I don't know if it still holds true or not. It is a trippy road trip type of story, that's for sure. And another Zeb Wells. This is volume 4. And this time around, you have Adam Kubert on artwork. This is part of the Dark Web collection, which is also getting an omnibus format. Speaking of omnibus, we've had this in omnibus format, but it's back in print as a trade paperback. And that is Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane. Now, this is the adjectiveless Spider-Man era, not the Amazing Spider-Man era with David Michelinie. This collects the stories that Todd McFarlane went to do solo, by himself, writing, drawing, and sometimes coloring, and sometimes inking. Most of the time inking his own stuff. He did get some help in a couple of issues. All the way to his final issue with the crossover with Rob Liefeld's X-Force number 4. The only thing that's missing in here is issue number 15 by Eric Larson, which is also its own omnibus. Now, I didn't know where to put this one, but an Epic is come back to print. Usually we get to announce them. But they decided to do, I guess this isn't really a reprint, this is more of a restock. But Aliens, the original years, has come back to print. And this collects the stories from the Dark Horse era, available in an omnibus format, and also has come out already in an epic format. It does have a mature content for language and violence, and the most important thing to note about these is that the names have gone back to the original Ripley and Hicks and Newt from the movie Aliens. So they did not change the names. Now, you're probably going to be familiar with a lot of the creators in here, but just to kind of give you an idea, with Mark Verheiden taking the lead right there, Mark Nelson doing writing and art, Sam Keith, Ron Randall's wonderful artwork throughout this particular epic collection. And last, but certainly not least, is What If Complete Collections, Volumes 2 and 3. So Volume 2, collecting issues 13 through 15 and 17 through 23, and then Volume 3, collecting issues 24 through 35. These are some of my favorite comics to be collected. It's been available in omnibus format. The interesting thing is that this is a reprint, so the original printing of Volume 2 did not contain issue 16, and that's the one with Shang-Chi. But it does contain issue 13 with Conan walking around Earth today. So that I find really interesting that they are able to reprint that particular story. So I guess if you don't have the omnibus of What If and you're still wanting these, it does contain that story. Now, the Shang-Chi story is collected in the Shang-Chi Omnis. So it's part of those Omnis. That is the only way to get it, in oversized format or in trade paperback format. But these have all kinds of different awesome stories. What if Doctor Doom had become a hero? What if Phoenix had lived? That's the one with the Frank Miller cover. Letter pages are included in here, which is a rarity to see in trade paperbacks like this. What if the Hulk had become a barbarian? And that's the story with Jarella right there. And then even the backup stories are included in here with the Celestials. And what if Wolverine had killed the Hulk? What if Spider-Man had rescued Gwen Stacy? Just look how thick this book is. It's a big book. I love this stuff. I've talked about this stuff in omnibus format. If you want to go back and watch that video, we're still waiting on the 90s What If Volume 2. Hopefully we'll get a What If Volume 3 to wrap up that era of What If. And we need a Volume 4 to wrap up this era. This is the Frank Miller issue right here with a big spoiler. I don't want to spoil what happens there. But $39.99, and this one here is $39.99 as well. And that's it. That's it for these round of reprints of trades. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And those were the books that have come back to print recently or coming back to print soon. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. If you have any more questions, leave them down below. And what other trades you would love to see Marvel either put on an evergreen list or come back to print with. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.